Hello everyone and welcome to the Priceless Podcast. My name is Michael Sechen. This podcast is made in partnership with the European Forum of LGBT Christian Groups. Please subscribe to this channel, like, and after you've seen this video, you can comment in the comment section below. And of course, you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And how you can follow us is right here on the screen. So today I have a new guest and her name is Tanja Grabovac and she is from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I'm so excited that I have someone from my region finally on this podcast. So hello Tanja and welcome to the Priceless Podcast.
Hello Michael, it's so nice to hear your voice. It's so nice to be here with you and with your followers.
Well, I'm glad that I found someone from Bosnia who is willing to do this interview. In general, I'm trying to find more people from the East, from some Eastern countries. So let's start right away. Let us get to know you a little bit. So I will say just a few words and you can just react to those words. You can say one word or you can elaborate, however you feel at the moment. So the first word is identity.
Identity. May I first reflect on your first thoughts about our countries and our region, because I'm really also extremely happy to collaborate with someone from our region. As you said, it's often very hard to find the people, so I'm happy that I'm from Bosnia talking with you from Croatia. And the question identity, identity, it's one of my topics. If you just tell me identity, I may think it can be chaotic. It can be chaotic and it can be also very beautiful.
The next word is sexuality.
Wow. You really know which words to point. Yeah, oh wow, sexuality. And I think immediately it comes so many topics in my mind, and also the questions, what is really sexuality? And also for me as a theologian, how is sexuality right now, nowadays in 2023, considered, thematized, and are they disproportional? Is there disproportional thematization of the sexuality inside of the theological thoughts and inside of the new psychological researchers, medical researchers, etc.? So when you say sexuality, and immediately I think I'm immediately thinking about so many new things, researchers or questions about it.
Faith.
Wow. Faith, what first come to my mind, because it doesn't come to my mind. I think soon you said faith, I felt it somewhere a bit deeper. You know, I felt it as a deeper feeling. I felt it as something that can be or could be very important on the everyday basis for our life, for our identities. How do we live in our identities and incorporate it together with our faith, with our believing system? So I would say it's the faith as something that I would feel deeper in myself soon I hear the word faith.
Church.
Here, I must tell, I'm struggling a bit with the first associations. I want to, of course, first would I do have many positive associations coming with the word church, but also as the Catholic theologian, so as a theologian inside of the Catholic Church, I think I still have some struggles with some behaving, with some discriminations inside of the church. So it would be a topic on which we could broadly discuss.
So we need to make another interview just on the topic of church.
Also on the other topics too. It's important but very broad topics.
Oh, yes, of course. The next word or words or name, or however you want to put it, is Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Oh, I immediately think my love, definitely. Like I would really think immediately my country, my land, where I feel the most safe, the most who I am. So would tell for me the first association is really love.
And the last words are free time.
Very important last words. It's very important, right? The first free time, it associates me with the importance of the time that we can have just for ourselves, for our beings, for our relaxing, for our meditation moment, for our understanding of ourselves better, or also free time for some amazing, nice, new, even adventurous activities in the nature with the family, with the dog that I have. So immediately when free time associates me also with the free time that I can use for my dog.
Thank you for sharing yourself with us a little bit. We're going to get to know you a little bit more through the next questions. So one of the reasons why I actually invited you is also because one of your identities, as much as I know, is being bisexual. Mm-hmm. So can you tell us a little bit about how you realized this identity, how you came about to get to know yourself as a bisexual person?
Yeah, I mean, I would start, let's say, from the high school. Let's say, like, I was in one school, and actually, I would now need to. Now I'm thinking, because in Bosnia we have a phenomenon: two schools under one roof. I think you know, but maybe other followers will not know. It means that in Bosnia and Herzegovina, there are the major three ethnic groups, and I would say, unfortunately, from the early childhood, these ethnic groups are separated in the different school systems. In the question about my sexuality, so I was in a high school, also one part of elementary school, in schools that was organized according to the two schools under one roof. I was following the program that was for the Croat ethnic group in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and together with us in the same building was the program for the Bosniak kids. And in the high school, I must tell that one of my best friends, I was in a mixed circle. So I was not just oriented toward my Croat ethnic groups, but I was a part and having friends from the other program of the Bosniak programs. And a lot of us, we were actually not just open regarding our ethnical identity, but also we also noticed, okay, there may be some gay persons here, some lesbian, and we were quite fine. But I must tell that we did not know what is LGBT. We did not know what is LGBTIQ+. We did not know what is queer. It was not thematized. So back then, talking about the sexuality, I knew that, okay, I am open towards same sex. But it was not thematized as bisexual, as pansexual, as LGBTIQ. We just did not know these topics. We were not educated. And back then, so my high school was a period between 2006 to 2010. The social medias that we have now, they were not widely spread back then. And also, I think in the society, LGBTIQ topics were not widely spread. So I must tell from my perspective, but also what I heard in these circles, we never know, okay, we know that there is homosexuality, of course, but many these queer topics, we never thematize them. So I never identify myself as a bisexual person or as a pansexual, as I'm doing later, because I just did not know. And what is very interesting that from this circle that we have mixed ethnical group of friends, later, like 10 years later, I figured out that they are gays, that were inside of the group, that they are other bisexuals, that there is a lesbian. and it was like such a huge positive surprise for me. And it was very interesting to see that we were not just connected because we don't want to be separated according to our ethnic groups. We don't want to be enemies because of our ethnic groups. But also maybe we saw that some queerness inside of us, and that also connected us. So this was, I think, one of my nicest stories that I always share from the high school, from this mixed ethnical group of friends. And then later, like 10 years after, seeing, okay, they are like some of my best friends are gays that I did not know really openly in the high school why we were going out. I did not know this. And also they did not know, they did not thematize it so much. So that was the first step, how I realized this was more unaware level. And later at the end of my faculty, when I was obviously already 4 years old, and I was studying theology in Sarajevo, I joined, there is an organization for women and LGBTIQ plus rights in Sarajevo that is called Sarajevo Open Center. And in 2015, they started with the first program of feminist school with the name Žarana Papić. I was 1 year in this program. And I think that being educated in this feminist school, and also we thematized a lot of LGBTIQ plus and queer topics, and then that I realized some terminology, then I had like on a more aware level of, okay, what was happening with me all these years, because I still am falling in love with the guys, let's say, but also I am able to fall in love with the girl. Then what am I? So these were all the questions, okay, then I am, bisexual, okay. And but I also later on a very level realized that I think also, that in my sexuality that I am open, toward genders, that it's not, I don't know, is it really important which gender someone is? So I think that I have also struggled to identify with the bisexual because, it's for me, what is important is a human as a person. And is it a transgender? Is it does not want to even identify themselves as toward any gender? That's all relevant. But I still have struggled to identify myself. And then I came to the point, okay, I don't even need to identify myself. It is close to bisexuality, pansexuality, but it's very open sexuality. Sometimes politically, I must tell, it is good, to identify yourself as a bisexual or pansexual. That was how so this was my process.
So you studied theology, and you said you're Catholic, and now you're a Catholic theologian. We'll talk a little bit more. Right now you're doing a doctorate in theology. So I would really like to know, what were your challenges? I mean, the Catholic Church is not the most open when we talk about different sexualities. So can you tell us a little bit about the challenges you faced in accepting yourself as a pansexual or bisexual?
I think, I hear differentiate. There were challenges. I would tell them, I would make two classification of challenges for me. One is, I would tell it outside challenges. And here I mean all of my relations and challenges that I experience with colleagues, other theologians, with the church or some persons from the church. And then the second categorization, I would call it like what were the inner challenges, like in relation, like just for myself. When it comes about the outside challenges, I think when I just started to decide what is my topic, and first I wanted to focus more on the gender, feminist theology, but also the LGBTIQ plus. And I note one of the comment, and it was clearly said to me, and the messages was from one colleague theologian that studied together with me, that he openly messaged to me that it is such a shame that one theologian is dealing with these topics, that I should feel ashamed just as a theologian to deal with this topic, to research them. And I would say that, of course, there are these or similar other experiences where you see that, okay, people would judge you or even feel uncomfortable the topics that you are researching. And sometimes, I mean, this also hurts sometimes. You know, when you hear, okay, everything that what you are researching is not so much relevant, right, as a researcher, as a science, or it is relevant, let's say, for them, but there is still some kind of uncomfortable feel. And then I come to this second inner world challenges. It's how I process all of this outside challenges, the communication with the persons. I don't feel ashamed, I must be honest, and I don't want to feel ashamed. On the inner world side, I must tell I have less challenges, because I think with me and myself, I have it clear that what is important for me as a theologian and which type of theology I want to research. And I want to stay there. I want to focus on that, what I want to do in a theology, if you understand. And then this makes me comfort, you know, and then I have less challenges with myself than with others. And this I find good. It's okay. I notice, okay, that one of the field in theology I want to do is I want to stay connected with people. I want to stay connected with people who are in the church to see which are their needs. And that's why I choose pastoral and practical theology, because there are so many different people inside of the Catholic Church. There are so many different groups. These groups and these people don't feel support in the church, don't find the support in the church. They don't find research for them. They don't find developed theologies for them. So there is a huge need in the Catholic Church with many groups, and one of these groups is LGBTIQ plus group. And I found it very important, a topic, actually. I think that's not the topic which we should be ashamed. It's the topic that is widely spread in all around the world right now, that is spread in many societies, that is strongly spreading still. It's being active and active more. There are more and more organizations inside of the church that are oriented toward LGBTIQ people. And as for me, for pastoral theologian, if there is a need of any group inside of the Catholic Church, then there must be theologians dealing with these questions.
Yeah, since you mentioned your doctorate, can you maybe shortly just say what your doctorate is about?
Yes, so the topic is LGBTIQ and the Catholic identity inside of the Catholic Church in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I think that I love so much my country, Bosnia, that for me on the beginning, it was very clear that I want to go to PhD, that I want the topic that is oriented toward gender or LGBTIQ queer. And when I come to the moment of realizing that in our region, in our Western Balkan region, there are no, unfortunately, researchers, no research that are connecting queer and LGBTIQ with any of religious communities. These researchers, I found just one article in Serbia that was dealing with Serbian Orthodox Church. But there are no books, there are no deeper researchers, so I immediately faced that there is no literature. And okay, this was the challenge. And then I was thinking, okay, this is a challenge, but that's also the opportunity. You know, then we have to write the first works. Okay, then I will do the field research. Then I will go to talk with the people. I want to really see the broad question, how is it possible, and is it even possible for LGBTIQ plus persons inside of the Catholic Church, how they shape their identities, how they shape these two identities together. Is it possible? How is possible? Which strategies, which support they have? Do they have support from Catholic Church? Is there any open space? I did not know any open space in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but then you go to research, then you ask the questions, then you ask the people to see, were there any open spaces in the Catholic Church in Bosnia and Herzegovina? Does people know? Will that help them? What are their expectations? So that was the process how I defined my dissertation, and it is dealing with combining and having these two identities together.
I have so many questions. First, you mentioned your family. How is your family reacting and accepting the topic of your dissertation? And do they know about your sexual identity or not?
Well, I think it depends which person. I think I'm active with my research, with my article on Facebook. So I post it on Facebook. I think the broad family, they know what I'm researching, they know what I'm for. And I saw many likes, I'm getting many likes from aunts, from uncles. So this is on that level. There are likes, there are things. There was in 2019 first parade in Sarajevo, and my mom knew I'm going, I'm open. I think she always knew I'm open, and I would always try to, correct her thoughts about the homosexuality or LGBT persons. She was completely fine. She knew I'm open, I'm going to the parade, but it was still the topic, just take care, the Bosnian Herzegovinian society, it can come to, parents are having these fears that it may come to some attacks or the violence, someone would recognize you on the street. So from her point of view, it was okay, just take care, take care of yourself, that's it. So there are many levels when it comes about the family. I do know that there are many members of my cousins or families that they don't have open views about the homosexuality, about the LGBTIQ persons. Once, it was 2 years ago, that also one of my uncle asked me while we were on a coffee in a grandma's house, he also asked, but how is it possible? He is a believer and he always understood the homosexuality and the Catholic Church as something that does not go together. He found him as a believer who would follow the Catholic Church, and in the way he would understand in homosexuality and LGBTQ as something that is not blessed from God, it's something that is not supported from the church, and it's not supported from the church. That is clear. I also do see that the many people as him, as my uncle, they do have really inner struggles. Okay, there is the topic of LGBTIQ people in the society, and they feel themselves as the believers, and they feel themselves like ripped, between the church and the society. And people are struggling, not knowing that this can go together. Here is the duty of us theologians to tell where and how it can go together, maybe here. So I have many different, stories from the families. So I also have like a close cousin that is gay, the other cousin that is bisexual. So I do have, like, in the family, those persons who are LGBTIQ. I have those who would like my research and support, also those who really struggles with it. So, and then they, because of the Catholic Church understandings and statements, there are few lines of the questions regarding the family.
So you are studying in Austria, doing your doctorate there, but you did study theology in Sarajevo, you mentioned. I don't know how connected you are still with church itself, maybe also in Sarajevo. How does the church react? Or maybe if you're still in contact with some old professors from your theology studies in Sarajevo?
I do still have, and during my research in these last few years, I had contact with some of the priests, mostly Franciscans, because I studied at the Franciscan theology in Sarajevo. Because the contacts I have and the Franciscans that I have in my contact that were also studying on my theology, I must tell that here I came to understanding, and that was important for me, and especially with one of the Franciscan, he gave me his interview that he was supposed to do for Deutsche Welle, and exactly it was about the LGBTIQ plus topic inside of the Bosnia and Herzegovina. So he gave me his this interview that I can use also for my PhD. The contacts that I'm still holding in Bosnia and Herzegovina with the people who are priests from the Catholic Church, I came to understanding and their support. Yeah, so this is one, yeah, positive. Also from the other theology in the Sarajevo, I was talking with other theologian and other friend of mine about my research, and he also talked with his professor that is also currently teaching at the other theology, that they were openly discussing my research. So this colleague sent me the messages, yeah, we just talk about your research, we found it very important in the pastoral theology. And so I must tell you, I do have here some positive stories. What is happening in everyone's mind this we cannot know.
No, but this is amazing that there are positive stories, and I'm glad that you see those positive stories, because often we can...
That's important, yeah.
We can kind of see a lot of negative, but often we don't see the positive. So I'm glad to hear that you actually see so many positive, and you just don't care what's going on in the minds of those.
I mean, when the first LGBTIQ parade was organized in 2019, that some of the statements that were coming from the Catholic Church and from this media, the official media from the Catholic Church in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and their statements toward homosexuality and the LGBTIQ parade was critical. That they cannot see the connection between human rights and LGBTIQ rights. So here we are talking that the LGBTIQ rights were not considered as a human right. So we are talking about very critical and dangerous statements that are coming within the Catholic Church in Bosnia and Herzegovina that many believers will read, and then they will also feel the inner struggles, how to accept the LGBTIQ parades, every year in Bosnia and Herzegovina with this, let's say, some of the official statements of the Catholic Church.
So you do this research, and can you give us some insights that you actually got from your research?
Yeah, would be very happy. I'm in the end of the research, hopefully till the end of this year, and we should finish. I did a qualitative and a qualitative study. It means I've done 6 interviews with LGBTIQ persons. First of all, I must tell people struggle. For me, people feel huge amounts of pain in combining, in living LGBTIQ identity, some of the LGBTIQ identity inside of the Catholic Church. There is huge amount of pain, huge amount of discrimination that they feel. I needed, honestly, after I've done 6 interviews, I was like few weeks after that needed, emotionally to come to myself, because you hear a lot of heavy stories from the family, from the church. People do undertake different strategies. Even though it was just 6 persons, there are some of them who tell that both of identities being both of identity being a believer, and that the faith and the LGBTIQ identity means together so much of them that they don't want to castrate one of the identities. Some of the people would tell, these are really two most important identities, fundaments of me as a person, my faith, and that that I'm a gay man or that I'm a lesbian woman. There are persons who would tell this, it is very hard to live them together, and it is very hard. One of them mentioned that it is painful, to go to the Mass on Sunday and hear that the priest would tell some discriminatory words about the LGBTIQ identities, and then how they were telling, you are sitting in the church, you're hearing this, that's you, you are gay, and this hurts you, they would say. And then this brings a lot of high levels of stress, a lot of depression also to people. And then that this one gay man said, and this sentence will, I think, always stay with me, that often when he's sitting in the church and he's talking like with the God, he's telling, I'm talking with the God, and I'm thinking like, oh my God, like how now these persons around me in the church, how they would react if they just realize that I'm gay. This is a lot of amount of fear that people have with every time they go to church, with every time they go to priests, because they are in a fear someone will discover, someone will tell them do not come to church, because they heard that they are evil, they heard that they are not normal, what often comes, what often they heard that they are not natural, that this is not what God wants. And this is such a huge amount of stress, of fear with every time going to church. But still there are persons who want to stay in the church, who wanna put these two identities together. There are the persons who are staying, who are telling they are still there, still in the church, still being a believer, but we have this expression of raising your hand up, dići ruke od crkve. It means you're giving up. So they are telling, I'm still here, but I'm on the border, I'm on the end, because such amount of the pain, I think I'm standing like 1 second before I completely raise my hands in front of the church. It means before I completely give up, because I can't take all of this. I can't take on me all of that amount of stress, all of that amount of discrimination and of pain, of fear. And then there were also persons, one of these persons that is having personal difficulties to combine these two identities. And then the person was telling don't want to go to church, because this is the strategy that helps her, to separate herself from the church, because just she can't, and she don't want personally to hear all of these negative attitudes, negative thoughts against the LGBTIQ plus persons. So she already made a cut and already said, I'm not going then to church, I'm still a member, I'm still a believer, but I cannot go to church because it hurts me. So the interviews are showing that people take different strategies, that people are seeing what is okay for them, with what they can deal, with what they cannot, because we are talking about huge amounts of pain that people are feeling. And some of them say, I think I can't long anymore. And some of them already said, I can't, and I already gave up. So I must tell, this is not a quantitative study, it's a qualitative, it's a different methodology. But I have to tell that already all half of the persons I interview, they are thinking of leaving the church because they are not accepted in the church as the LGBTIQ persons. And I think this is the biggest, one question for the church. And in last year in Austria, 90,000 of persons left the church. 90,000. We are talking in Germany, in Austria, in Western Europe about it's a huge number of persons that are, because of many different reasons, they leave the church. One of the reasons is also because they don't feel accepted in the church. And this is, I think, that is my PhD showing, and it is huge question for the church. And it's a huge question, will church see on responsibility? Will they be, I also must to tell that none of these persons I interview never went they don't know any open pastoral space for them in the church, in Catholic Church in Bosnia. They did not hear about it. They don't know nobody. We can conclude that right now there are no any open practices inside of the Catholic Church in Bosnia toward LGBTIQ persons. Some of them said that they know some priests with whom they can talk nicely and openly, that they can come to understanding, that the priests know that they are either gay or bisexual, and that they feel supported. But this is this is the private level. But they don't know any group, any event, any seminar, any open space inside of some parish where they could go and freely talk about their sexual identity. So this is also one result of the interviews. So there are many. I think that one of the biggest question is, the responsibility of church, but not just the church. It's responsibility of all the theology. May also the other believers, the members in the Catholic Church. This would be some of the interview results that I could share now, that are important, right?
Yeah, it's extremely important, and there is a lot of pain in within the church. And what you said, the problem is, even if there are priests who are open towards LGBTIQ people, often it's very hidden. So it's just if you hear about someone through someone, because of the whole situation within the church and how the church views LGBTIQ people, many priests or even nuns who are open, they won't really say it openly because they're just too scared. Where is the hope in all of this? I mean, LGBTIQ people, they were always there. They're now here. Now they're more aware of their identities than some people were many years ago. So where's the hope for them? And did you see any hope in your research?
I think there is a hope, not just to tell it, there's always a hope. No, because I really truly believe that there is a hope. First of all, because LGBTIQ plus topics are and will be way much more present in our societies. Being present in a society, it means that it will be way much more present also in the theology. And I'm seeing this I'm writing in a German area on German, and I'm seeing this, and I live here since 5.5 years. So I'm seeing that there are more and more researchers and researching articles or books on the topic of LGBTIQ and queer more and more present inside of the theology. It means the theology is reacting on what is happening in the society, on the social pressure. And I do believe that it will be more and more present. And also the church will more and more react. Some of the dioceses, some of the bishops will more and more react on the LGBTIQ persons, and more will create, I hope so, really, the open LGBTIQ pastoral spaces. So I do see this coming more and more in the German area, and I do really believe that it will come more and more also in our region, in Croatia, in Bosnia and Serbia. So I do have a hope that there will be created some of the places. I'm thinking also very practically, also the new generations are more and more seeing it in the media. on social media or elsewhere in media, they will more and more question in the school, in the elementary school, in high school, on faculties. So the more the topic is present, the more and more the new generations will come already knowing topics. My generations, we did not know this in high school, but the things change now. Some of these topics are now more and more visible. So this is changing. So I think that in all of this change and in this visibility, there must to be hope that we can see that is coming.
So you're writing this doctorate. What do you hope for this doctorate, and what do you hope for yourself after you've done with your doctorate, when you have your doctorate?
I think I do have one hope, because I'm coming from Bosnia and Herzegovina. And while I was studying theology on the feminist school, but also on the Franciscan theology, neither feminist theology was not present enough. For me, as a woman studying on theology in Sarajevo, it was important to hear about the feminist theology. We had it, but briefly and a bit, and it was not enough. So, so there were no places inside of theology where I would go, where I would see things, where I would refer, where I would question. There were no researchers almost that I would ask them about the LGBTIQ and queer in the theology, because at the time when I was studying, they were no existing. I did not know any theologian at our area that was writing about the LGBTIQ topics, nor queer. So I do have a hope that this research will be one space, one place where the new theologians, but also the others, they don't need to be theologians, but where the new generations, doesn't even need to be just new generations, but also anybody who is interested for the topic, that will have one place to see it. And that for LGBTIQ persons who are in the church, but also the other religious communities, that they will see, okay, there was something. There is one place, and there were these interviews, there were these people in Bosnia, and okay, I feel them. Let's say that people would go to the research, to the book, and say, I can really feel these people because it's who I am. I'm LGBTIQ, and it makes me happy to hear that they were others, and that they are right now more, that they are others also, LGBT there. There it is. It is visible, it exists, and also hopefully it helps. And just sometimes by being visible and being there, it really helps to people, just to know that you're not alone.
Yeah, an image comes to my mind. There were people before you that kind of pushed you into this topic, and then you come and then push the other. It's like, you know, a chain reaction, let's say.
Yeah.
That's what you hope for, that you can be one of these links that continues the chain reaction, especially in this region. And I really hope this will come true. So what are your plans after your doctorate? What would you like to do? Would you like to continue with this topic and work on it, and how? Or are there any other plans?
I would like to continue, definitely. I think it is one of my passion. It's one of my could say the love. I do know that maybe the studying theology and being a theologian doesn't have the biggest economic prosperity for your life, but I think it is my passion, and I think that I do find that inside of the pastoral theology, I think that it is my passion to continue to work with people, and also that means with LGBTIQ persons inside of the Catholic Church. So I would continue with gender topics, I would continue with LGBTIQ topics, plus with the queer topics, and would continue also with our region. I am here on the German area researching, so my plan is to continue to stay at academia. And it would be to connect and to focus also on my region, not just the main focus of my region, but because I think that's where it is really burning. You know, here there are many other German theologians who can write about the LGBTIQ persons in the Catholic Church here, but there are not so many Mihails, in Croatia. There are not so many Mihails in Bosnia and Serbia. So I do see my responsibility to still stay on a one-way focus with my region, with Western Balkan region, for the LGBTIQ persons. Maybe, it's its responsibility. I maybe see one of the academical responsibilities in it, but it's also one of my passions.
Through what you were saying, everyone can hear that our region is also still extremely patriarchal, especially the church. How do you think or see yourself being accepted as a woman theologian dealing with the LGBTIQ plus topic? How do you see yourself accepted within the academic circles in this region or Bosnia and Herzegovina?
So I differentiate here the academics in our region and here, because here there are so many, the topic of the feminist theology, of the gender theology, queer theology, LGBTQ, there is a huge need in theology for it. And this is why this is here okay. When it comes about our region, I do have some connections in academia. I strategically and also realistically, I don't have to be connected just with the theologies in our region. I think, the studying the Catholic Church and the question of LGBTIQ queer identities, I don't must to focus myself just on theology. So I do have some some other cooperations. You need to find it in sociology, in gender studies that we have in our region, in psychology and others. So I think if I would just focus myself on the theology in our region, it would be very narrow. And also for my understanding of topic of identity, of queer, I need other disciplines. I need queer and gender studies. I need to research them. I need to know them. I have to connect with these researchers too. I have to understand, what is one psychologian writing about the minority stress model. I need to understand. So it is very interdisciplinary. I don't have almost any expectation from any theological faculty in our region. Because I think that we should be confident as theologians that we are worth and we have a right to develop our own theology. Regarding will this theology be supported from these patriarchal structures? Here, for example, in Graz, there is a Center for Southeast European Studies. And I met here many that are not theologians, that are coming here in Graz to study from Serbia, Macedonia, North Macedonia, Croatia, and then they are writing about the LGBTIQ in some specific historical area in Serbia and North Macedonia, and then you connect with them. So all of these networks in our region are important, not just theological. If some theology want to stay inside of the patriarchal structure, that's their decision. Also, for me as a theologian, it also can be a decision that I don't have to have a then connection with them. So maybe this seems to be cold, but the academia is not just theology. And not just patriarchal theology, definitely. Who has a right to tell you that your theology is not a real theology just because it's about the LGBTIQ theology or a queer theology? It is, on my point of view and on the point of views of many other researchers, it is a valid theology. And if somebody don't approve it, I have to find my own ways to deal with it, and everybody has a right. Does it seem to be called? So my point is to tell, there's not just theology to research as a theologian about the LGBTIQ and queer identities.
It doesn't seem cold to me at all. I see a lot of warmth in opening up and giving more possibilities and more ways where you can do your work and contribute to society, so it doesn't look cold at all.
We have to be open, right?
We are at the end of our interview, but I want to ask you, is there anything else that you really think is important that you would like to share with us before we finish?
Maybe it came to my mind, and that was connected with the questions from a question about some of the results with interviews. I forgot to mention this, and I found it important because I asked my interview partners, what are their needs from the church, from priests? What do they expect? And I came to be surprised, actually, because what people need from priests and from the church is not so much. You know, the people would tell me that they just need one small, safe place for them in the church. That the priests are not directly discriminating from the altar in the church on the mass. One of the interview partners said, I don't expect that the church and priests will be on the street and on the parade waving with the LGBT flag. No, I just expect a bit of dialogue, a bit of will to understand me, a bit of will to talk with me, not immediately to push me away, but to try to understand me, to try to see me, try to see my existence, try to see my pain. But this is maybe a lot, you know, this is maybe a lot for some priests, for the church. If church and priests make just one small step to tell, okay, let's hear LGBTIQ persons, let's hear queer identities, just with the will to understand and to see you and to see, okay, you exist here, you're one part of the church, your existence matter. And so this is what surprised me, and this is very important maybe for priests to know, for church to know, that maybe people don't expect from the church immediately, I don't know, so much, but a bit. And what I also noticed, you know, I was researching and analyzing the reactions from the Catholic Church and the Islamic community on the LGBTIQ parades in Bosnia. Within all the discrimination and everything that is against the LGBTIQ population, it's never written LGBTIQ believers. I think in all of these reactions, anti-LGBTIQ reactions, they see LGBTIQ community as completely separated from the church or from the Islamic community, from any religious community. And this is the first mistake, because I think in these reactions, I could not find that they say that there are people who are believers and LGBTIQ as the bridges between the Catholic Church and the LGBTIQ community. Right now in the Catholic Church and Islamic community in Bosnia, LGBTIQ believers, I'm telling about the believers, like they don't exist. There's just LGBTIQ community and the population that is there, but the seeing that there are visible LGBTIQ persons within their communities. And what now to do? Should we start a dialogue, you know? And we're talking about the, you know, after war country where the dialogue was one of the most important words. All these 30 years after the war, the dialogue everywhere. But we don't see the dialogue in lot of communities. So this, you know, the people expect just that they are first of all visible, that you acknowledge their visibility and their existence. So if this I could add in the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, visibility is so important, and I hope that we'll manage to make this visibility bigger, especially in our region or in the countries where LGBT people are not so well accepted as in the West by churches. Not that there are not problems in the West. Sorry, people from the West. So thank you, Tanja, for being my guest. Thank you for sharing yourself. Thank you for sharing things about your doctorate and what your research actually resulted in. Thank you, dear viewers and listeners, for being with us. I hope you enjoyed this episode. This podcast is made in partnership with the European Forum of LGBT Christian Groups. Don't forget to subscribe. Press right now. Like, and of course, now you can also comment in the comment section below. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can donate if you want to support this podcast, because this podcast relies on donations. See you next time in the next episode. Until then, bye everyone, and bye Tanja.
Bye Michael, and thank you once more. What you're making, this place you're making is priceless and precious.